We are all here today, civilians and NGOs from over 60 organizations from all over Europe. Who is from France? Bienvenue. And who's from Italy? Accoglienza. And from Hungary? Udvul Zulcek, or something like that. And from Switzerland? Grüezi. Germany? Willkommen. And from the Netherlands? Welcome. And to everybody else from wherever you've come from, welcome, shalom. Behind us, in the United Nations, they're sitting. They're discussing the conflict from last summer. But we are here in the square, and we are standing. We are standing for Israel, and we are standing for human rights. And we say to those of you sitting over there, enough of the double standards. Enough of the blind equivalence. Enough of crying wolf, because if you keep on crying wolf, when the real wolf comes, no one will listen to you. Enough, enough, enough. Ladies and gentlemen, many eyes are looking at us from all over Europe, but also from all across the world. From all four corners of the world, people are looking at this building behind us and at you standing here. Okay? Show your support, but please do it sensibly and do it with respect. Okay? For those of you who are following on hashtag for Israel. Now it's hot. You've come a long way. Please drink water. And once you finish drinking your water, drink some more water. And when you finish drinking that, drink some more. Because if you don't, you're all standing on a whole whirlpool of fountains underneath you. And if we need to turn them on, I promise you we will. So, with no further ado, it's my honor and privilege to introduce the Chief Executive Officer of the World Jewish Congress, Mr. Robert Singer. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Singer.
Thank you, Terry. Terry is one of the hundreds of young Jewish diplomats of the World Jewish Congress, and thank you for doing this fantastic job. On behalf of the President of the World Jewish Congress, Ronald Lauder, and all Jewish communities worldwide, I thank you all for coming here today. We have more than, he said 60, so I need to update you. We have more than 80 organizations who united to organize this rally in support of Israel. We have people here from many countries, as was mentioned, and many more. But what's not less important, the parallel rally is going now on the social media, and I just was updated that hundreds of thousands of people participate in this. And this is not a only Jewish event. It's important to understand. We have many Christians and others who joined us here today out of conviction. Thank you very much for coming. Let me tell you, it is not a common sight these days in Europe to see so many Israeli flags in one place in the center of Geneva. And I'm glad that so many of you come here today to show your colors. The reason why we are here today is to tell the United Nations that it needs to change. It needs to overcome its obsession with Israel. This obsession is destructive, and it stands in the way of an effective human rights policy that is so badly needed. Today, whenever Israel has to make use of its legitimate right to defend its existence against thousands of rockets fired into territories, when it tries to destroy the terrorist infrastructure of Hamas and other groups in Gaza, it is immediately accused of committing war crimes by the United Nations. Dear friends, after the Holocaust, the World Jewish Congress played a central role in the establishment of the UN and in drafting its charter. Article 51 of this charter says, and I quote, "Nothing in the present charter shall impair the inherent right of individual or collective self-defense if an armed attack occurs against a member of the United Nations." Clearly, by firing hundreds of rockets at Israeli civilians, Hamas and its allies launched an armed attack against a member state of the United Nations. And Israel was in its right to respond. It is Hamas that is a violator of human rights. It violates the sanctity of schools, of mosques, of hospitals. It uses civilians as human shields. And it executes people publicly without giving them a fair trial. As retired British Army Commander Richard Kemp, that will be speaking after me, wrote in the New York Times last week, the reason so many civilians died in Gaza last summer was not Israeli tactics or policy. It was Hamas' strategy. And Israel did not go into Gaza because it wanted to expand its territory. Israel had to go into Gaza to defend its citizens. As you all know, Israel troops and settlers left the Gaza Strip 10 years ago. But today, Gaza is still an occupied territory. But the occupier is not Israel. It is a terrorist movement called Hamas. And if it were not the brutal Hamas regime, Gaza would be thriving today. Yet many in the United Nations continue to blame Israel for everything that goes wrong in the area. That's because blaming Israel for every war has become a sport, not just in the United Nations, but here especially. The Human Rights Council has been in existence for only 8 years, but has dealt with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict more extensively than with any other subject. So far, Council issued more one-sided condemnations of Israel, 61, than of all other countries in the world taken together. Certainly, Israel is not perfect, and its army and its leaders make mistakes, and these need to be investigated. But Israel has independent courts. Israel investigates itself. Israel does intensive soul-searching after each military action. Israel holds its leaders to account. Are you aware of similar action in many other places in the Middle East? Did you hear that the Palestinian Authority, or Hamas, or Hezbollah, or Assad, or ISIS, or many others in the Middle East have their actions questioned by an investigative committee? Everybody knows the answer. No. That's why we are here today to tell the United Nations Human Rights Council, stop applying double standards toward Israel. It's unfair. Stop portraying Israel as a serial violator of human rights. It's wrong. Stop putting the democratic state of Israel on the same level as the terror regime of Hamas. It's an insult. Israel has a decent human rights track record, certainly the best in the Middle East. But that's beside the point, of course. Some members of this council don't care about human rights. What they care about is pointing fingers at Israel to deflect attention from their own disturbing human rights record back home. In 2006, when this Human Rights Council was established, then Secretary General of the United Nations Kofi Annan called it, I quote, a historic development. He said it will help improve the lives of millions of people worldwide. Well, that's how it should have been. But that's not how it has worked out. Dear friends, the Human Rights Council and its obsession with Israel has to stop. Not just because the reputation of the United Nations as world's leading body to enforce human rights is at stake, but also because so many people need the United Nations to focus on their plight as well. The people in Syria, the people in Iraq, the people in Somalia, the people in Pakistan. While we are here, let's not forget this. While the Council is again meeting today to discuss matters relating to Israel and to the Palestinians, more people across the Middle East are becoming refugees. Women are raped, and innocent people are beheaded. Human rights violations of the worst kind are happening in the UN's Human Rights Council is again blaming Israel. This council has an important mandate to fulfill, but it can't do so by applying different standards to different countries. The same standards must apply to everyone, and the most important challenges must get to the top priority. The UN must be fair, and the UN must be just towards all of its members. If it isn't, it will not be effective. And effective it must be, for the sake of millions of people around the world. Of course, as I said, Israel is not perfect. It can improve many things, including on human rights. It needs to deal with criticism, and so it does. But Israel cannot and will not tolerate to be everybody's punching bag. And we will not and cannot tolerate this either. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my deep honor and privilege to call to the stage a man who has fought with the enemy and fought with very difficult enemies in real theatres of war. A man who is used to doing this, who commanded all of the British forces in Afghanistan, was responsible for the counterinsurgency operations, and has managed, together with US, Canadian and Afghan forces, the counter-operational successes against Al-Qaeda in Kabul. If there was ever a man who could tell us how difficult it really is to fight an enemy determined to wipe you out whilst protecting civilians, this is the man. So with no further ado, I call to the stage Colonel Richard Kemp.
Shalom, ladies and gentlemen. Say again? Thank you. I have to. Yes, that's enough. I have to disagree with Robert Singer. He said that Israel is not perfect. Israel is perfect. Certainly, if you compare it to what goes on inside the building behind me, and in many of the capital cities around Europe and the world, Israel is certainly more than perfect. I've just been sitting in the United Nations Human Rights Council listening to countries lining up, one after the other, to condemn the state of Israel for its war crimes. These are countries, beacons of human rights, like Iran, like Pakistan, like Cuba, like Venezuela, all people who exercise the greatest standards, the highest standards in human rights in their own countries. And Iran, I'm assured, never executes more gays or more dissidents than it absolutely has to. Ladies and gentlemen, what we've heard today is lies. We had the United Nations Independent Commission report presented to the United Nations Human Rights Council. And that report is characterized by anti-Semitism, by lies, by distortions, by falsehoods, and by deliberate branding of the one and only liberal democracy in the Middle East as an apartheid and a terrorist state. It is a shame, it's a disgrace. I said before when I was here last time in 2009, debating the Goldstone Commission, I made it clear that the Israeli Defense Force had taken greater steps than any country, than any army in the history of warfare to protect the lives of civilians in a combat zone. I say exactly the same thing again today, except more so. What I said then was proven. Judge Goldstone retracted his allegations against Israel carrying out war crimes and crimes against humanity. He was forced to retract what he said. What I say today, though, in addition to that, is that Hamas has taken greater steps than any other terrorist group in the history of warfare to bring suffering, death, and destruction onto its own civilian population. And that's what this is all about, ladies and gentlemen. That's what this is all about. This is all about Hamas's strategy of sacrificing its own people, of firing at Israel and attacking Israel from within the heart of its civilian population, not in order to damage Israel, because Hamas knows very well that it cannot defeat or seriously damage Israel by military means. So what it tries to do, and it succeeds time and again, it lures Israel to counterattack. Israel has no choice. What country in the world would not counterattack if it had countless missiles fired at it? Everyone would. But Hamas's aim is not to damage Israel, it's to force Israel to kill Palestinian civilians. That's its strategy. And its strategy is seen working in action today, because its strategy is to then exploit those deaths, the death of its own people that it has caused through propaganda, through manipulation of the media, to bring about unbearable political pressure on the state of Israel. For example, the kind of debate, the kind of lies that are being beamed around the world from here today. This is Israel, this is Hamas's strategy in action. The organization behind me, the United Nations Human Rights Council, is a tool of Hamas's terrorism. That is what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, this report is worse, it is more dangerous than the Goldstone report. Some people have said it's more balanced, but the danger is in that perception of balance. Yes, it says that Hamas may have committed war crimes, and yes, people will think, well, that's a fair comment, it's a criticism of Hamas. And they will also think, it also accuses Israel of that, so it must be fair in relation to Israel. We know Hamas commit war crimes. We know Hamas fire at Israeli civilians, dig tunnels with the intention of attacking and murdering and kidnapping and drugging Israeli civilians in their kibbutzes. We know that they do it from within their own population. We know they use UN schools. We know they use hospitals. We know they use protected buildings. We know they use houses. So we know they commit war crimes. Yes, they do. Hamas commit war crimes in every act they carry out. Israel does not. Israel does not commit war crimes. For this report, for the United Nations report, to draw direct comparison between the Israel Defense Force, the legitimate armed force of a democratically elected government, and compare that with a ruthless, violent, vicious terrorist organization is morally bankrupt. It's an absolute disgrace, and I certainly intend, as I know other people here intend, to point out the reality to this council today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. It's a pleasure to speak to you today.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from Colonel Kemp that the UNHCR is a weapon in Hamas's arsenal. You've come a long way to make that message. Let me hear you loud and clear. Let the television hear. Let the social media hear. Ladies and gentlemen, the UNHCR is a weapon of Hamas's arsenal. Let me hear you now. Do you agree? I said, do you agree? Thank you. Let's hear a bit more noise, a bit more oomph as our speakers talk. Now, bringing it a little bit more local, we're here in Geneva in Switzerland, and we're honoured to have a prominent leader of the Swiss Jewish community, a lady, Mrs. Anne Argi, who has devoted her life to both human rights and to the State of Israel. She's a founding member of Planète Enfants Malades, a Swiss foundation providing support to and improving the lives of sick and hospitalized children. She has a lot to tell us about how she views the UNHCR. Anne, over to you.
Thank you. Welcome to Geneva today. I know many of you have been driving since 2 in the morning like the Italians. Benvenuti. Willkommen to the German, and my Dutch or my Hungarian is not good. Welcome to all of you. And I would like to thank the World Jewish Congress to give me the opportunity today to say a few words to you. I'm actually the president of the Swiss WIZO Federation, and this is my link to Israel. And I have been leading this federation in Switzerland for the last 9 years. And I'm very happy to be part of this very historical rally today. As you know, Switzerland's relationship with Israel began long before Switzerland formally recognized the State of Israel on January 25th, 1949. More than half a century earlier, 1897, Theodor Herzl convened the first World Zionist Congress in Basel. And between 1898 and 1946, 14 Zionist congresses were held here in Switzerland. And indeed, the last Zionist Congress before the outbreak of World War II and the genocide of 6 million Jews, European Jews, took place here in Geneva in August 1939, just when things were getting really horrible already in the east of Europe. Geneva was also the birthplace in 1936 of the World Jewish Congress. And we are grateful to Robert Zinger, the CEO of the Jewish Congress, and to his colleagues for their leadership role in making today's rally and support of the State of Israel and the support for the people of Israel possible. As you all know, what's happening behind me today is crucial. It's crucial for Israel, and it's crucial for all of us, the Jews, all over the world. And please support our relationship with the State of Israel and make Israel strong, because without Israel, we are nothing. We, the leaders and members of the Swiss Jewish community, live in one of the oldest democracies in the world. And such as Israel, we recognize in Israel the only strong democracy in the Middle East dedicated to the respect of human life and dignity, as the democracy we enjoy here in Switzerland. Today we join with all you friends from across Europe to proclaim our support and solidarity with the State of Israel and the people of Israel in the search for a lasting and secure peace. Israel is the only country in the Middle East where Jews, Christians, and Muslims can practice their respective religions in total freedom. Israel is the only country in the Middle East where Jews and Arabs vote in democratic national elections. Israel is the only country in the Middle East with a free press. Today we call on the United Nations to acknowledge that Israel is the one country in the Middle East where the human rights of all its citizens are guaranteed and recognized. And today we call on the United Nations Human Rights Council to stop holding Israel to an unfair double standard while ignoring the human rights violations of other nations, including some that sit on the Council itself today. We, the Jewish community of Switzerland, proudly stand with the State of Israel, with the people of Israel, and with the democracy of Israel. We, the volunteers of WIZO in Switzerland, support and defend the people in Israel and work relentlessly for a future of respect and peace. Thank you very much.
It's not getting any colder out there. Please drink. Please drink. None of you are drinking. You're all cheering, which is good, but you've got to be drinking. There are tents at the sides, tents on both sides, and people handing out water. Please drink. Drink, drink, drink. Okay? And if you're over 18, you can drink other things. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim! It's now my honor to go slightly further south to Italy. I said to Italy to welcome a famous and renowned journalist and founding editor of Il Foglio. From what I've been told from my Italian colleagues, this man needs no introduction whatsoever. So with no further ado, Mr. Giuliano Ferrara.
Somebody from the World Jewish Congress, who organizes this wonderful meeting in Rome, called me before I left for Geneva and told me, please try to be moderate. I said, I'm an obedient nature. I follow the orders of the World Jewish Congress. But in the meantime, the first concept I would like to fix in my brief remarks is this. As a famous combative American politician once said, extremism in defense of liberty is no extremism. Extremism in affirming the truth is not extremism. And this is why I've been listening to the general speaking before me with a happy mood when he said that those who are elaborating the report of the Council, of the United Nations Council, those who are elaborating that report and trying to use it as a tool against the unique democracy of the Middle East, against the state of Israel, are doing something vicious. It's our duty, dear friends, to fight the great bias against Israel as a legitimate state, a nation, a people. We all know that the United Nations Committee elaborated a flawed report about the military action in Gaza a year ago. It is flawed from the starting point of the reasoning. Israel, they say, waged war against the Gaza Strip, against the Gaza population. But that military action was not a war and should not be judged as a conventional war by choice. It was instead an act of self-defense, a tragic and inevitable necessity. In this judgmental assertion about the war lies all the bias we are here convened to reject in front of the seat of the United Nations. Peoples and states are allowed in every democratic constitution, as the chief officer of the World Jewish Congress said, in every charter of human rights to protect liberty, life, and property of the families who constitute the bulk of the nation, to work as a shield for children, old people, women, and citizens is the vocational mission of those who act to defend a community. Those who reach a decision after a democratic process, which happens only in Israel, in the whole Middle East. Those who realize with bravery the act of self-defense, sacrificing their welfare and their life in the sacrosanct effort to stop an aggression. No one, not even a United Nations bureaucrat, no one in the world can strip of this commitment the brave hearts of men and women who sincerely care for their people and for the sacred standards of humanity everywhere in the world. No one. As a democratic country based on the rule of law, Israel is clearly open to every kind of scrutiny. And that's not all. Israel scrutinizes the behavior of its defense forces, and 4 inquiries are devoted seriously to that path of humanity and of justice. Even self-defense is submitted to rules of engagement that must be respected under any circumstances. And Israel knows it. And this is the original and solitary distinction of the only real democracy of the Middle East. And there is still more. In order to have due process in the attempt to ascertain facts, and the real consideration of what those facts mean in the typical hellish situation of a military action in a densely populated area, you need to firmly rely on different sources of information, which is not the case of this report. with all due respect to the human rights organizations, their testimony and the corresponding reconstruction of what happened is not above bias. They see the strength, the blessed strength of a country with air force capacity and with technological assets. But they don't see the siege mounted against this country by very deeply rooted webs of terrorists. They don't see the horrible methods, the war crimes of guerrilla warfare. They don't see, or else they minimize. They put aside kidnappings, missile bombardments of Pacific villages, threatening arsenals and tunnels and the connections between those webs of terror and many of the states that preach the annihilation, the wiping out from the maps of the state of Israel with all its people. They don't take into account the basic assumption of the military events in the Gaza Strip. Israel, that's what we said, that's what we wrote in our newspaper in Italy, that's what we said in every television talk show. Israel uses its missiles to protect people. The ruling class of the terrorist organization Hamas uses its people to protect its missiles. And this is a difference. I mean, using humans to shield arsenals that speaks very loud and clear about whose side lies the humanity factor in this terrible fight. Many human rights groups and the United Nations installation in the Gaza Strip too clearly stated that schools, hospitals, mosques, international relief buildings, and other civilian facilities have been used by Hamas as a bloody shield for the instruments of aggression against the enemy, which is the Jewish people of Israel, civilians and soldiers together. Dear friends, the Jews of Israel and the whole population of this free country of citizens fight against any culture of victimization, self-victimization. And they are proud. That's why I love Israel. And I find that Israel is an example in humanity, in good politics, in constitutional rights of man. They are proud of the attitude of this country to a measured, self-proportioned and measured self-defense strategy under any circumstances. But for many Europeans, sometimes, not always, sometimes in good faith, Jews are tolerable exclusively as victims. And when they react to protect the security of their people, they resort to the old French adagio. That's for the French-speaking people here. Chien méchant, si on l'attaque, il se défend. Those who try to bring Israel and its soldiers before criminal courts nurture this ideological misunderstanding and completely subvert the rational order of things. Due parole in italiano per i molti italiani che sono venuti qui. Può sembrare una cosa debole riempire di bandiere di Israele, riempire di cartelli che dicono la verità sui missili, su Gaza, su Hamas, la verità su ciò che è accaduto un anno fa. Può sembrare debole far questo in un giorno in cui potenti burocrazie cosiddette umanitarie intendono varare un rapporto il cui vero scopo è quello di isolare Israele, indebolire Israele e portare Israele, se possibile, davanti alla Corte internazionale di giustizia per crimini di guerra. Ma noi sappiamo che non è debole. Non è debole una manifestazione di verità, una manifestazione di volontà, una manifestazione di forte volontà politica nutrita dall'amore, perché Israele è un atto d'amore nella forma nazionale che ha assunto nella storia e nella sua legittimazione politica e costituzionale. Israele è un atto d'amore verso la gioia di vivere, verso il futuro, ed è un atto di sopravvivenza all'interno di una grande tradizione religiosa e ormai di una grande tradizione politica nazionale. Penso che dobbiamo resistere. Ci hanno offerto l'acqua, sarebbe stato meglio se ci avessero offerto l'alcol, per dire l'Echaim, ma anche con le nostre bottigliette d'acqua ce la faremo. Grazie.
They always said that the Italians were famous for running on time. I hope you're all drinking out there. I hope you're still drinking. For those of you who are drinking so much that you need to relieve yourselves, there are toilets over there, so please make sure you do it over there and not in here. L'chaim, l'chaim. As Giuliano said, when it comes to war crimes, there's two sides. There's how you protect your own civilians, and there's how you minimize the damage to your enemy's civilians. As we now go further south from Italy to the state of Israel, as I said, to the state of Israel, I'm delighted to welcome here a kibbutznik from Kibbutz Kfar Aza, a kibbutz that is on the border of Gaza, that's been living in the shadow of the rockets for over a decade now. It's my honor and privilege to introduce you, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ofir Libstein.
My name is Ofir Libstein. I live in Kibbutz Kfar Aza, which is a kilometer away from the border with Gaza. My wife Vered and I have 4 sons. For the past 14 years, we have been living under ongoing terror attack that has been coming to an escalation once in a while. Escalation that can mean 200 rockets and bombs in 48 hours. My 4 sons were born into this reality. They don't know any other. It is a 15-second reality between the loud and explosion. As soon as our children turn 2 years old, we already train them to run for cover when they hear the loud or the rocket whistle. At any given moment, missile can explode in a kindergarten, in school, or on our houses. Unfortunately, I can share many stories with you. For example, Nitzan, my 11 years old son, was waiting for his soccer training to begin when a rocket attack started. Ever since then, he cannot sleep by himself. Every alert, every explosion make him relive that attack. Exactly a year ago, when our kids had just ended their school year and were excited about starting the summer holiday, a major terror attack according on our kibbutz. Their happiness changed to fear, while 640 rockets exploded in our region alone. Some of them caused a huge damage, including our neighbor's house, which was totally destroyed. Others caused injuries and death of civilians. One of those civilians was a little boy, 4.5 years old, Daniel Tegelman, from Kibbutz Nachal Oz. Daniel heard the alert, but did not make it to a safe place in time. Exactly a year ago, in the middle of the night, terrorists emerged for the tunnel they had built over a period of several months. They planned to attack us while we were sleeping in our beds. This plane failed, thanks to the Israeli soldiers who were guarding us and died protecting us. No one can convince me or my wife that those terrorists was targeting soldiers. They make no distinction between soldiers, women, or children. In the past, they have bombed my son's class and the yellow bus on the way back home. But in spite of everything, there is hope. I have hope for the sake of hundreds of thousands of children in Gaza and in Israel who live an unreasonable life, that this situation will change. My heart hurts for every citizen and every child killed in Gaza. When this happens, I'm thinking about my children, and I know that the soldiers defend us are feeling the same. I have hope, but I do not apologize for our rights to protect ourselves and our children by stopping the one-side violence against us. This is what any democratic state would do. I call on to the international community to take on a task of demilitarizing Gaza and rebuilding it. The Hamas leadership in Gaza is not fighting for the Palestinian people. It is only fighting to rule out Israel's rights to exist. The day the violence against us stops, we will be the first to support the construction of an airport and a seaport and to develop infrastructure for transportation, energy, and the environment. The children of Gaza and the children of Israel deserve to grow up in a healthy and safe environment with a good education, just like the children in the Western world. Peace can achieve if the international community makes it clear to the Palestinian terrorist organization that they must stop educating their children for hate and violence. They must stop investing in terror and start investing in own citizens. Invest in their children's future. Once the terror will stop, the children of Gaza and the children of Kibbutz Kfar Aza will be able to have kind of life they deserve. Then we can start living our life as neighbors. This is my hope. Thank you.
Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai. Israel chai, Am Israel, Am Israel, Am Israel chai. Am Israel, Am Israel, Am Israel chai. Am Israel, Am Israel, Am Israel chai. עוד. לחיים, לחיים. לחיים למים, thank you. Ofir, thank you for that very personal message of hope. I hope that the people behind us sitting over there in the Human Rights Council listen to your wise words. I said, I hope the people in there in the Human Rights Council listen to your wise words. Returning to Geneva, I'm delighted to welcome here Dr. Gregory Lafitte, the Director of the United Nations Affairs of the European Council of the European Coalition for Israel, but he also represents hundreds of Christian individuals and organizations who come here to join us from the Netherlands, from Germany, from Austria. It sounds like the Eurovision Song Contest here. Italy, France, and even Switzerland, Geneva, to show their support for the state of Israel and its democracy. So, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please, for Dr. Gregory Lafitte.
Thank you. I want to start by thanking the World Jewish Congress, and especially Mr. Robert Singer for organizing this rally here. It's so important, as someone coming from Geneva, I'm from here, to be able to say something about what is going on, not only in the Human Rights Council, but to say that we Christians stand with Israel. In 2004, at a conference called for after the EU had published a poll that branded Israel as the greatest threat to world peace, Elie Wiesel asked the following question: why is it that when anti-Semitism shows its ugly head, we only hear condemnation coming from Jewish organizations? He asked, where are all the others? We, the European Coalition for Israel, and many organizations here, from Christian organizations from many nations, want to be this coalition of all the others. Nous, la Coalition européenne pour Israël, et beaucoup d'autres organisations ici, chrétiennes, venant de différents pays, voulons être cette coalition de tous les autres. We want to say to the Jewish community, to the state of Israel, you have the support of a broad Christian community who wants to learn from history and speak up in time. We have seen for many years now a new form of anti-Semitism, clothed in the fashionable politics of demonizing Israel. 77 years after the nations miserably failed the Jewish people on the shores of Lake Geneva in Evian. 70 years after the liberation of Auschwitz. 70 years after the signing of the UN Charter. 70 years after the creation of the UN. We are devastated to still be witnesses of this demonization of the state of Israel. To some, the answer to this demonization is tolerance. We, the European Coalition for Israel, have chosen to not simply tolerate Israel and the Jewish people, but celebrate their many contributions to our culture. Nous, la Coalition européenne pour Israël, avons choisi de ne pas seulement tolérer le peuple juif et l'État d'Israël, mais de célébrer toutes les nombreuses contributions qu'ils ont apportées à notre culture. Without the Jewish people, there would be no Europe. This is true for the past as much as it is today. We do not want to differentiate between the Jewish communities in Europe or in Israel. It is time for Israel to be fully recognized and embraced in the family of nations, and to stop the demonization of the Jewish state. The events of the last few days in Tunisia, Kuwait, France, shows the real threat that the free world is facing today. Christians, Jews, and Muslims alike. Israel is not the problem in the Middle East. Actually, it is the only thing that is currently right in the region. Israël n'est pas le problème au Moyen-Orient, mais la seule vraie démocratie dans la région. Israel is at the forefront of this battle against terrorism. As José Maria Aznar has said, if Israel falls, we all fall. Si Israël tombe, nous tombons tous. Nous sommes ici aujourd'hui pour dire que nous nous tenons avec Israël dans cette campagne mondiale de guerre juridico-diplomatique. We are here today to say that we stand with Israel in this global campaign of diplomatic lawfare. Ensemble, nous vaincrons. Together, we will win.
Ladies and gentlemen, no demonstration is a demonstration without Hashomer Hatzair, right? So, with no further ado, I'd like to invite up onto the stage, freshly off the buses, and Habonim Draw as well, sorry, to come up onto the stage and play some music for us. Big round of applause, please.
Tu veux que je te tienne le micro ou pas? Je te tiens le micro, voilà. Ah, ok.
Est-ce que c'est?
Sur la guitare. Ouais, t'inquiète pas. Ouais, faut mettre. Mettez-vous devant ou pas? En tant qu'on. Les plus grands derrière, mettez-vous les plus grands derrière. Ouais, les plus grands derrière, exactement. 1, 2, 1, 2. Ouais.
Come closer.
T'as dit que. C'est pas grave, on va chanter tous. On chantera tous. Ça. Ok. 3, 4. Nous lâcher les chalotes, la boquère, les haïr, Hazaka, chez Batfilote, Otanou, l'Otasir, Miacher, Cabanero, Ouvé à Farnisma, Loyairo, Loyashiro, Lecha, Ishotanu, Loyashi, Midorta, Titafel, Galolo, Dayulo, Sichata, Nitzachon, Veloshir, Veale, Yasherashi. Comment? Vous voulez qu'on chante la Tikva? Non, à la fin. Non, à la fin, à la fin. Thank you. Round of applause! Ouais, merci, merci, merci. Allez, on repart dans le cœur. À la fin, à la fin. 9h de quart. 9h de quart pour deux chansons.
After that moving rendition of Shir LaShalom, a song for peace, I think it's proper to bring a mother's voice to the podium. A mother and a grandmother who lives in Kibbutz Nirim, which is also in the shadow of the rockets. She will tell us what it's like to raise a family as a mother and as a grandmother under very difficult circumstances. Ladies and gentlemen, Adele Raymer.
Thank you for inviting me to come speak here today. It is an incredible honor. And while I'm here representing the residents of the Eshkol region in Israel and our country, what I say are my views and my views only. Have you ever had to run for your life? I mean, literally. When I hear the red alert early warning system for incoming rockets, I know that I have between 5 to 10 seconds to get someplace safe, regardless of where I am in my little kibbutz house. For my kitchen, I can sprint to safety within about 3 seconds. If it catches me in the shower, I'm out of luck. There's no way I can jump out of the bathtub and make it to the safety of the safe room before impact. If I'm out walking my dogs, I either throw myself down on the ground next to a wall or just lie down wherever I am and cover my head and hope that something doesn't fall too nearby. We do not have Iron Dome to protect us, and we know that every red alert means that something will explode nearby. And last summer, we had numerous red alerts every day. Last summer, on what was to become the last morning of the war, my bedroom was invaded by deadly shrapnel that ripped through the walls. The electricity of our entire community was knocked out in the same barrage that could have killed me had I been sleeping in my bed instead of in my safe room. I decided that it was time to take a break from being brave, bearing witness, and dodging rockets all summer. I'm 59 after all. I'm no Rambo. So I decided that day, after I gave a talk in Tel Aviv about life on the border, I would take a breather to regroup my emotional forces and return after a few days. I had no idea what the rest of that day would bring. At the very moment I was up on stage depicting life in another world, another reality, my friends back on Nirim were outside in the heart of the kibbutz, between the members' houses and the daycare centers, helping restore the electricity to the community so that those people who were still there would not have to spend the night in terrifying darkness and the stifling heat of the dead of August. While I was in the safety of that Tel Aviv lecture hall, 2 of my friends were killed by a mortar. The same mortar that landed between the legs of a third friend, blowing off his legs below the knees. That night was the only one I slept away from home last summer. The next morning I returned for Shahar's funeral. The day after that, we accompanied Zevik on his final journey. The war seemed to have ended, but suddenly my friends were gone, and my kibbutz was a community in mourning. And here we are in Geneva. A year after that bloody summer, with the UN building behind us, where a committee has just published a report which, although reinforcing our right to exist, it questions our ability, prerogative, and judgment in dealing with an enemy that threatens our lives even today. An enemy that vows openly to wipe us off the face of the earth. And let me be very clear. My enemy is not the Palestinians. My enemy is the Hamas terror organization. Nirim was a paradise for raising children when mine were growing up. But today, as my daughter holds her own 2-month-old firstborn, she's apprehensive of living there, terrified of dangers that lurk from above as well as below. Today, we are hyper-aware of the fact that in addition to the tunnel we know about, which is less than a 5-minute jog from my house, it's highly possible that other tunnels that the IDF have yet to uncover could loom. I've stood in that tunnel, which began in Gaza, has one branch in the direction of Nirim, and the other leading towards the neighboring kibbutz Ein HaShlosha. Believe me, it is sinister and frightening, built with a complex infrastructure for communications and electricity that was developed solely for purposes of death. Can you imagine how our children feel when they know that terrorists could come through a tunnel under our community at any time? Hamas are still digging tunnels. Each day, trucks barrel through our area to Gaza laden with cement and other humanitarian supplies. I also know that the Gazans who need that cement to reconstruct their homes do not have money to feed their families. They sell the cement so that they can buy food. The cement sent over to fix their homes ends up under the ground, making its way back into Israel in the forms of tunnels of terror. As far as I know, not one house has been built in Gaza since last summer. This past summer, I was held hostage by the Hamas. The Hamas and they alone decided when there would be a ceasefire. The Hamas chose to construct terror tunnels rather than buildings to house their people or factories to generate industry. Israel builds safe rooms to protect her citizens. Hamas builds safe rooms to transport their weapons. The Hamas also held the Gazans hostage, resulting in the deaths of countless innocent Gazans when Hamas directives prevented them from leaving their homes. As you've heard here today, Gazans were put at risk by Hamas projectiles being launched from within residential neighborhoods, mosques, and schools. I live in the shadow of the threat of rockets and attack tunnels, and I know only too well. And these are my main words. Until the Gazans have something to live for, they will only have reasons to die for. And I understand that until the unemployment level drops and the ability to put food on their tables rises, our safety will remain compromised. I have no idea, I have no doubt that until Palestinians are able to work on construction of homes, they will continue to work on the construction of tunnels until they're able to raise their children in homes rather than the rubble of last summer's conflict. They will be raising another generation of Israel haters. And my grandbaby will not be able to romp on our lawn without her mother worrying about the eventuality of a red alert blaring out. Coexistence begins with education and responsibility. I'm disappointed by the tone at times of the HRC, which insinuates that Israel does not demand accountability from her army. I know that in the process of protecting my community, our soldiers have put their lives at risk to save innocent Palestinian lives, aborting vital missions when non-combatant Palestinians were in harm's way. I trust my army to hold fair and honest inquiries to determine whether there were instances where their very high standards of respect for human life were not upheld. Will the Hamas do the same? Of course not. They are a terror organization. That is the challenge when you have the situation of an army which needs to protect its citizens against guerrillas who make no such distinction, who target civilian populations with impunity. I hold the Hamas responsible for finding a way to stop investing in terrorism and incitement to hatred and start making choices that will enable the people of Gaza to thrive and prosper. I encourage and trust my government to bring about a long-term political agreement with the Palestinians. And I call upon the countries of the world and their representatives sitting in the building behind us to act in a way that will compel the Hamas to abandon their path of violence and empower all of the people in our region with the conditions to live in a way in which the human rights of all of us will truly be respected. We all need to be able to raise the next generation to respect our neighbors, not fear them. This is clearly not a conflict that can be resolved by weapons. It can only be resolved by courageous leaders and diplomacy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adele. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got about 5 minutes left and 2 more speakers and then Hatikva. I just want to say now, at the end of the rally, please everybody stay in the square. The buses will come and meet you here. Okay, do not go off to search for your buses. The buses will come here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it's my honor and delight to welcome to the stage the Ambassador of Israel to Switzerland, His Excellency Igal Kaspi.
Good day to everyone. It's hot here. I'm not sure it's hot because of the sun or because of your presence and your warmth toward Israel. And I prefer this kind of heat than the one. But it's give me the chance to feel like an Israeli in the sun of Israel. I first of all would like to thank the Swiss police and security services for protecting us in this demonstration. I think they deserve the credit and the merit. I don't want to repeat what was said by my predecessors, you know, who spoke about many things from observer from the outside, people from the border with Gaza. But one thing is for sure, the purpose of the report that was published today is not to investigate or to see what happened in Gaza. It's to put ties on the government hands for further conflict, to prevent us from protecting our citizens. And I would have thought that this committee would investigate those countries that supply missiles, rockets, and missile technology to the terrorist organization. They could have saved world many problems if they prevent this to happen. And these terrorist organizations still have them, and if this report will be received as it is, the terrorist organization will understand that they have the free hand to use them again. Now, Israel government, first and foremost priority is to keep the safety of the Israeli citizen. And we are not going to be threatened by reports or by condemnation. The government of Israel wants to have peace because at the end, this is what will prevent further conflict. But we are not going to give up, and we are not going to let a situation in which a kid will have to sleep in a shelter every night, or an adult to be 15 seconds for the nearest shelter. This is unacceptable, and we are going to do everything to prevent it. I would like to use this opportunity really to thank all of you for coming from close and from far away. I see the flags. I even saw a Finnish flag. I hope he came from Helsinki. I see a Scottish flag, Hungarian. So on behalf of the government of Israel, really appreciate the time you took from your daily routine to drive, to fly, to walk to this place next to the UN building and give us support. This support for us is very important because we feel that we are not alone. We are facing the world. I count on your support for the future because unfortunately problems are still coming. And I believe and I'm sure that when we're going to call you next time, you're going to be here with us. So thank you very much and enjoy it.
It's my honor again to welcome up to the stage Mr. Robert Singer from the WJC, who will thank all of you and all the organizations.
Many people took part in putting this demonstration together. As I said, hundreds of thousands of people are following this demonstration through the social media, and we're getting reports all the time. There are 3 or 4 organizations that I would like to thank specifically and to express our appreciation. The organization that initiated the demonstration, Over the Rainbow, Stand With Us, CRIF Lyon and CRIF France, and Bnei Brit. Thank you all very much. And I would like to thank the other 74 organizations that I just didn't mention now. I just gave an interview to one of the news outlets, and she asked me, do you think they listen to you? I'm not sure they do, but I'm sure they will. Because if we'll continue supporting Israel the way you supported it now, and the way we should support Israel, we definitely will make them to listen to what is the right thing to do. Once again, thank you very much for coming.
We'd also like to say a big thank you to the most important people here, which is everybody else in the square. Thank you! And now I'd like to welcome up to the stage all of our speakers in Hashomer Hatzair, and we will all sing together Hatikva, the Song of Hope, the national anthem of Israel.
And while they are coming up, I would like to thank Terry Newman for managing and emceeing this demonstration. Thank you, Derek.
I remind you, after Hatikva, please stay in the square. The buses are going to come here. And L'chaim, L'chaim.